Alright, so before I start putting on the rear axle, I got a lot of parts here I got to clean up and paint, so just, the thing that goes with the U-bolts. This is for the tray. These are bump stops, more bump stops here. I don't really know what these are for, but I'll figure it out. So yeah, I'm just going to give them all a clean up and paint, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I got all the parts painted up for the rear suspension, and now let's fit it all. I'll start with the bumper stops and then move on to getting the leaves on the diff. So I've got all the bump stops in. Now I'm going to put my leaves on underneath the diff, just so I don't have to hold them if I were to put them on the diff straight away. So these are the lowered king springs. They're lowered leaf springs. It says it lowers at about 30 mil, I think. Should still have the 1 ton capacity. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. If I don't like them, I can always put the old ones back on. Same with the diff. We'll see how it all goes. So these springs came with the bushing already installed on the front, but you need your own rubbers for the back. And that's the number there if you want to get the same. Alright, so I've just lifted up the whole chassis to get the diff to sit on it. It's a little bit out, but with a bit of play, it works. Got my U-bolts. They came with these 1-inch lowering blocks, but I'm just going to leave them out for now because they are lowered springs. So when the car's done, I can see what the sort of level of the car is, and if they need to be lowered, I can just put them in after. So now we're just going to put our shackles on, the U-bolts, oh sorry, the shackles are already on, just the U-bolts, and the plate. So I am going to put the lowering blocks in, but the holes that they came with are too small for the pins in the leaf springs. So as you can see here, I drilled that one out. So I'm going to drill this one out now. So I've got the diff sitting on the lowering blocks right now. Now I just need to tighten up these bottom plates with the U-bolts and then put the shockers in. So I've just dropped the diff on the ground. With the 1-inch lowering blocks and lowered springs. VZ diff. Looks pretty nice. One thing though, back here, because I think the mounting points on the VZ diff are slightly bit in, like I'm talking 10 mil. Got a gap there. Oh, why is it not focusing? There we go. There's a gap right here. So might have to do something there. I'll figure it out. If any of you guys have any solutions to this problem. I'm sure this has been done a fair few times before. Let me know. What I was thinking, maybe on the lowering blocks I could just drill the hole a bit offset, so I can shift it, the hole more in, so that it sits a bit more this way, and then that will let the shackle sit properly aligned. Or I can maybe make a new shackle with a longer bolt on this end and then put a spacer in here, which I think would be the best option. That way everything is centered. Put a spacer in there on that side, and then you just put a spacer on this side, and then yeah, I think that might be the best solution, but we'll see how we go anyway. So I want to get this whole chassis on the ground. I'm not going to put the shocks in or anything yet, because I'm still going to have to mess around with all that. So I've got 3 wheels. My 4th wheel has an engine on top of it, the 308 that I bought. So I'm going to have to lift it, and I've got a stand here that I borrowed that I hope will be able to do the job of holding a 308, but I'm not too sure, so we'll see how we go. There we go. We are officially back on the ground, and it's a rolling chassis. Only took over a year to get there, but we're here. Oh, look at that. Nice. Love it. So I've just given it a measurement, and we're about 1880 at the back and 1730 up front. So about a 150 difference. And you can sort of see here, that's a better view of what the sort of difference is. So yeah, that will impact the tyres that I choose to get. The wheels that I choose to get. And yeah, I'm just going to keep the engine like this with my hoist on it, just in case it decides to give up. But yeah, give it about a week, and if it hasn't fallen, then I'll have more confidence in it. Right, so change of plans. With the offset of these diff shackles, or where the diff mounts to the leaves, compared to the old one being out by 10mm, it made these rubbers, when I tightened the shackles up, made the rubbers compress unevenly, and that just didn't sit right with me. So what I'm going to be doing is, I bought some bolts here, some longer bolts, and these are the old shackles with the messed up threads. And I'm just gonna be cutting off the old shackle bolts, drilling holes where they were, putting these longer bolts in, welding them up, and then that will give us enough bolt to be able to put washers or spacers in there. And when we tighten up the shackles, it should tighten up on the rubbers evenly, and it shouldn't really make a difference on the way that the suspension works. And really the stresses that we're putting on the shackles. So yeah, gonna do that now and see what the end result ends up being like. Right, so I've just cut up the old shackles and center punched where I need to drill the holes. So I'm just going to drill the holes now on the drill press, drill them out to 1/2 inch, and then yeah, we'll see how well the drill bits do, because they always go blunt. Alright, so I've got everything prepped, managed to drill out all the holes pretty nicely. Just had to sharpen a few drill bits, which worked out alright. Got all the rounds from the previous pins, all the rounded surfaces ground down. So I've just got one set up here, there's 2 bolts in it that are ready to weld up. And I've just got it in the flat bits here, tightened down so that they're as straight as possible when I weld them. So I'll do a few tacks and then weld them up fully and then move on to the other one. Right, so I've got my custom shackles all fitted up just for a test fit. I've got about 5 washers just for the offset, which works out to I think 15mm each side, and they sit pretty nicely on there. Same on this side here. Alright, so I've removed the lowering block and put the shackles on, and it's looking pretty good. Now I'm just putting the shocks on, so it's pretty simple. Basically, you just put a shock in the top, through there, put the top bolt in, and then these shocks, you have to change the bolts because they're different from the stock ones. So you have to put these like little metal spaces in. They give you a longer one and a shorter one. I went with the shorter one, and then yeah, you just attach it on the shackle mount there. It's been a few weeks since I last recorded. Haven't been able to do that much work on the ute, but I've done a few things, got a bit ahead of myself without recording, but I ended up putting the sway bar on. Now this is the old sway bar that came off the HZ diff, but I've just modified it a bit by bending it, by making that bend sharper, so to get it to line up with these holes here that connect back to the chassis. And what I'm going to do, I just ordered some front stabilizer connectors that I'm just going to put on the rear here as well, and that should do the trick. Then I went ahead and got the old brake calipers for the VZ Crewman diff, and I just painted them black to match the front calipers. And then I put all the old lines back on as well. And I've also made a new line up to halfway up the chassis, and then I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to make the line going up front. So yeah, just a quick update. Right, so now the goal is to remake this line here that goes from this point back to the proportioning valve. I'm going to improvise a little bit because the route isn't going to be exactly the same, because obviously I've got a different proportioning valve, but the line's going to be pretty similar. So what you want to do first is you want to measure up how long you need to cut your line, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So you can just grab a piece of string where you've got some ribbon or some wire, and basically you just want to run it along the line that you're trying to recreate. And you can get a pretty accurate dimension on how long you need to cut your new brake line. So just follow the line, following every bend, keeping where you're up to with your fingers at each corner. About there. So now I know when I cut this piece of ribbon about here and then put it up against my new line, that'll be pretty much the exact length that I need. I'm going to give myself a little bit more just because the line's going to route a bit different, and then I can come back and cut any excess that I have, but it'll be a bit longer than a bit shorter. So we're just going to place our ribbon or string or whatever you chose at the end of the new line, and then do the same thing you did before and basically trace it back on here to see if you have your required length, which for me ends up being right about here. And I'm an idiot and should have grabbed the marker, so I'm going to grab the marker now. Got my marker, let's do that again. And just mark where you need to cut. So I got this kit off eBay, pretty cheap, flaring tool and tube bender. Now I found that you don't really need to use this, you can just use your hands, but if you want really precise, like 90-degree bends, this is pretty good. I think it was like 20 bucks, or 20 for this and 20 for this, which isn't too bad. And yeah, and in this, you get a cutter. So where you've just marked the line, you come in and cut it. There we go. Now we've got a brand new line, which is about the length we need. So now we're going to go back to the ute and try and follow where we need to route this line. So now what I'm going to do is put my new line up against the old line and just roughly follow it, mark it out, so I know that I pretty much want it to be straight throughout here, and then about here I want it to bend, so I'm just going to bend it a bit with my hand. It's a pretty gradual bend. And then we can also put it up against where we know it's going to go, and so I can see that I've left a good amount there, so I can cut that later. And we've pretty much done well in following this line of the chassis. And then I know once I have it here, so I've got all these mounting points here, I know here I'm going to have to come up. So just bending it with my hand, not using any fancy tools or anything. Just holding it up against the body. You can see that's pretty much what the old line does. But then the old line pretty much went straight up and then into the back of the old proportioning valve. This line is going to have to come through here and underneath. So I'm just going to refer to the photos I have. I'm not sure if what this hole's for, that might be for another clip, so I'll check that. If it is, I'll route it this way and up. But if not, I'll just route it so it's floating and then goes up in there. I have a quick look I'll be back. Alright, so I just double checked the photos to make sure it's running past the holes, mounting holes correctly. Now I've got it about right. So now I've pretty much got it ran where I want it to go. And now I can mark out how much I need to cut off the ends, and then move on to putting the threads on and creating the flange that creates the seal, the brake lines. So now that you've got your line made, you want to flare the ends. So what you want to do is grab the nuts that you're supplied with. Call it nuts, I'm not really sure exactly what they're called, but the little threads. And then you want to put them on first. Make sure you remember to put them on, because once you flare it, you can't put them on, obviously. That's an important step. Then you want to open up this little billet part. Put your tube in the correct hole. Ours is 3/16. And grab this tool, tighten that up here. Just make sure it's straight and tighten. Keep tightening so you get a nice flare on the end. And untighten this. Take your tube out and you're done. There we go. So here are the final results. Running from that connector back to the proportioning valve. There you go. I've nipped it all up. So now I just need to clip it back to the chassis. But yeah, that's basically all the rear system complete, really. Got the diff in, got the brakes back on, got all the lines ran. So yeah. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting. Sorry I haven't been able to upload in the past month, but I've been pretty busy. Hoping to get back into it on a more regular basis. And yeah, looking forward to making more videos for you guys. So please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.